Hey guys, my name is Octoman and today we are going into how to create a survival inventory. This is an answer to a request from one of my subscribers. So I'm going to show you pretty quick what we are going for and then you know what it is. So I will use the first person controller you can download in the standard assets, and when I press I, then the inventory is going to open and we have the possibility to select any of those. In this case it's going to be wood, so we have the possibility to use this and the 9 or the number will decrease. Basically we don't use wood, but we have the ability to do so, and we also can drop a wood. This is going to be just a game object, and also when we mouse over this one and pressing E, then we can collect this. And also this one is a wood, and in my inventory we have bag 10. We can also drop all that at the same spot. It will always be dropped in front of the player. So no matter where I go, I can drop them here around the game scene. So let's get started with building our survival inventory. I can tell you this is not a dynamic inventory, so don't expect too much. This is just basically the basics of how this is going to work and how we're going to build this one up. So we start in just a second. So we start with a fresh scene. I have created a new project for this one. So what we at first need is several folders again. So the first one I create is a scripts folder. You may have this one already. And I also create a textures folder. If you are creating bigger projects or stuff, then just make sure that you sort out everything like it has to be. And I create a prefabs folder since we need some prefabs in this one. And this is basically, for now, it's just it. So now we go and create a new canvas. And this canvas will be a screen space overlay, since we want this one to overlay the whole game field. No matter how big it is, basically it will just fit the screen size. But we need to take care that this one is going to be scale with screen size. So depending on how big your game screen is, it will always match with the sides and will be always the same size as we want it to be later on. And that's pretty much it for the canvas. But now we need to create some panels, and these panels will basically hold our inventory and all other things we may later on or need later on. I personally will go over and create a panel which will hold or which will look I don't create the panel which will look. I will create a inventory system which will look like the one from Ark Survival Evolved, which is kind of a new survival game, and they made this one pretty nice. So on the left side there will be the inventory system itself. I just tried to fit this one in this size, and also there will be other panels. I'm going to rename this one inventory panel. And since I said this one is not going to be a dynamic inventory system, this is just going to be a static, static inventory panel or inventory system. So under this one will be another panel which can have quick slots and stuff, so you can yourself say, okay, this is the quick slot panel. Later on you do all your things in there however you need and like them. This one might be a bit slower or smaller in here, so we just have a size of 50 by 50 later on as panel size or whatever. So in this panel I want to create I want to create another panel, and this is going to be basically a spacer. I'm going to show you why, depending on how you want your design to be look. The problem is when I I'm going to show you this one pretty quick. I create a new layout part on our inventory panel, and this is going to be a GUI grid layout, and I'm going to decrease the size by 50 to 50. And when I just create a new panel under this panel, you can see it will be always at the corner of the side. The size is going to be okay, but the problem is I will never have a space from the left to the right and to the right to the left. So this is a problem of the grid layout groups, and so I'm going to delete this one, and also I go and delete the panel, and now I create a spacer panel in my inventory panel. So just UI panel. This is going to be the same size currently, but I call this one spacer, and I disable the image. You can also delete the image, and in this spacer I will add no, not UI, the layout grid layout group, and I say 50 by 50, and the space between all of those layout or actually slots, there will be spacing between left and right and up and down will be 3 pixels. And now I create another or a new panel in that spacer, and now you can see this is going to fit in there. If I copy this one by Control D, you can see it automatically fits the space and also holds the sides, but it will not fit the wall, or it will not fit the inventory itself. So on the right side we have more pixels, on the left it's just going to be too much to the left. So what I do right now, I go to the spacer and just decrease the size until it fits both sides and they not overlap. So don't forget to use that icon over here, otherwise you cannot fix that spacer. So I just take the right side and drag it over until I am close to this one. Now I can also do the same from the bottom into the top, maybe something like maybe a bit more, and then I just go and take the wall spacer and drag it there. So I have a little space from the down, a little space from the top. I can always go and fix this a bit more. And the cool thing about that is I can copy right now over and over and over again to fill all that slots, or actually create inventory slots. I don't need all that at the moment, so I just take one of that slots, and this is going to hold my information for all my items. I can also do a prefab out of that panel, but basically it doesn't really matter because you will just copy and paste that stuff later on. Actually you just need to do that anyways, because you will, since it's a static a static inventory, that means here in this spot will always be wood or always be stone or whatever you tell it to be, and we just set these things or that panel to interactable when it's usable or it's not usable, and so on and so forth. So we disable and enable all that things. So this is going to be a slot or inventory slot, and also we need a text inside of that, and we want to have some numbers in there, maybe like this. So with that numbers we can say, okay, this is going to be the number of the items we have inside over there, maybe somewhere in the middle. In Ark Survival Evolved you will see something like that too. So and we also later on, or basically we can just add this right now, we want to add an image, which will be, since our spacer or slot is 50 by 50, we say, okay, our image is going to be 40 by 40. And also we center this one by saying 0, 0, so we have a nice space. And in that, we can just import our, I'm going to drag this in just a second. We can just import our PSD file or PNG file with a transparent background, and this will be always at that position and in that spot. Let me go to my, give me a second. Assets, textures. Yes, I I just have a wood texture. So this wood texture has just a white background. Basically it is not white, it is basically transparent. It's only to show us what we have in the slot. So always change this one to Sprite 2D, otherwise we won't have the transparency in the background. And then we can just take this wood and drag it onto the image. No, that's not what I wanted. We don't drag it there, we drag it here in the free slot of the image. And also the text needs to be under the image, so it is over the image itself. When we go to full screen, we want to make sure that its readability is going to be pretty okayish. If the numbers are too big or too small, just change this text a bit, or maybe brighten up the color like so. And maybe make it a bit, I don't know. Let's see if we can do this a bit more bold. Maybe like so. So if we do it again, we can see this number is pretty good. We can also say we want rich text, and also want to fit this fit as best as possible, and so on. So now with this one set up, we can go and start actually scripting. So what we need is, at first we need an inventory script. Script. I write everything in C#, so prepare for this. And let's open up MonoDevelop. And our inventory script will hold at first all our how shall I say, basically we store all the amounts and all the other things in the inventory itself. So I'm creating a public int wood, and this is going to be equal to 0. So that means I have no 0 wood in my inventory. You can also do that with stone. Oh, I forgot to say int. And this is also going to be 0. We may later on need or use a maximum stack, public int max, maybe something like max amount, and this is this will depend on the item itself, so that's why we set this one to public. Also we have the access from outside later on. So what we want to do is, at first we want to open and close the inventory panel itself when we are pressing the I button. So I'm going to say if input, this is only for PC where you have the possibility to use a keyboard. So if get button down, and this is going to be a string variable or a string value of I, if I press, or the player is going to press the I button, then we want to open and close the panel of the main, or basically of the inventory. So since I only have this panel right now in here and I don't have any other panels around, I just say, okay, I want to open and close, or basically I don't want only the inventory panel, I want the whole panel. That means I want the whole canvas to open and close. So also quick slots and all the other things we have maybe later on inside, like stats and stuff, will always show at the same time. So what I go over is I select the canvas, say UI, and create a new panel, and this is going to be my I don't know, main panel. And this panel will get those two panels as children. So if I deactivate the main panel, all other panels will also not be shown. Same to, and also the main panel, I don't want this to be, or this to have anything. I want, so no texture or stuff. Basically not for now. So I can just say this is going to be maybe call it my button or my holder for everything. What I need is I need a connection to that panel so that I'm able to disable and enable that panel at any time I press the I button. How can I do this? Well, I go just say public game object and say main panel. This is just a name, it's not the panel itself, but we need to know what we drag inside of that. Oh, basically I can also, so store or save this one. And what I go is I create an empty game object inside my scene. And no, not in this. I better select my camera, create empty, and just drag this one out. I don't need to drag this one around. This is going to be my inventory system. So every time I want to do anything, typo, inventory system. So this inventory script will always be in that inventory system, and we just need to take care that this one is always in the scene. As you can see, we have the main panel as game object in here, and I can say, okay, take this game object and drag this one inside. So now I have the connection to that main panel. What I can do right now is I can check, is this one active or is it one inactive, and can say if it's not active then activate it and vice versa. So at first let's just do the connection stuff. So main panel, I want to set the main panel to active or not active, and I have a Boolean variable which can be true or false. So at first you can say I can set this one active. That means this is going to be true, but I need to make sure that I check before if main panel dot active self, which is this one. We can also say active hierarchy, but better go for active self equals to false. That means if this is not active, then go over and set this one to active. No. Oh yes. So now if it is not active, then set this one to active. And if it's not, then we say else. And then I go and copy this part and set this panel to false. Okay, save this and return to Unity. Let Unity compile everything inside when I press play. Currently it is active. If I press I, input I is not supported. Is not set up. Edit project input. I think it's not get button down, it's going to be get key down. Get key down. There, this should be the right one. So save again. Wait for it to compile. Again. Now you can see when I press I activate and deactivate that panel. So this is great because we want to pause everything, or maybe we don't want to pause everything, but only the movement of the mouse later on. This is what we want to pause. So now I can activate and deactivate all of that things. What I want to go over next is I want to create another panel inside the inventory, of course. And this is going to be my use item, drop item, update or repair or whatever buttons you need. Just I want to integrate them inside of that stuff. So I first say this one is going to be called icon, and this one is going to be basically this is a mount text. Maybe basically we later on we need that. And since this slot is later on will not be wood, will be stone, the next one, then we just rename all that things however we want them. Okay, so let's create that panel down below. So I select the inventory panel again. I don't want to go into the spacer. I don't want to go into the spacer because of the grid layout group. So I go over, create a new panel, and just decrease its size to maybe this. And inside that panel, I want to create, this is going to be my, I don't know, buttons panel, or buttons I, or I buttons panel, or inventory panel. It doesn't really matter, as long as you find all your stuff back later on. So name all properly. And in here, I want to create a button, UI button. And this button, I want to drag this one inside of that, maybe a bit smaller here and there. And this button is going to be my use item. Maybe this is all, or basically this is only for consumable items. Use item button. I better write everything together, otherwise we have problems, or maybe problems later. And in the text, we say use item. And this will be, just our use the item button in any way, like consume it. Or maybe to equip something later on. Well, depends on how we want to do this. Or you want to go over and do this later on. So the next one is I go and duplicate this button and drag this one down below. So make sure it fits in everything in there. And this is going to be my repair item button maybe, and also in the text, it didn't renamed, repair item button, and in the text we can say repair item. I don't go over into repair stuff, we just go and create all things we need for the inventory. And the next thing is I duplicate this one once again and drag this one over here. And this is going to be my drop item button. Rename this. And in text, of course, we say drop item instead of use item. So, no, not, yes. Okay. So now we have all the 3 buttons. Later on you might want to do any other button in here too. This one can be maybe later on for any other informations we don't use at the moment. So we are basically done, but I think we change this slot to a button instead of a panel. So we can use the clickability of the buttons and all that overlay thingies, and we can also later on change sprites and stuff if we use anything else instead of that buttons. So I just drag this button over to that point, and I take just the icon and drag this in the button, and I will just place this in the middle of the button. The button text needs to be again over that one, so I just make it like so. And the button color maybe can be let's see, the normal color can be just something darkish, I don't know, or maybe somehow around the same as the slot has, maybe like this. And a bit of transparency can also be used in there, maybe like so. Then we are close to the panel one, and I delete the slot, so we have now a button we are able to press to see anything when we have pressed the button, we may go and change the highlighted color. We can also say we can later on do sprite swap, but I don't go into any design things right now, so we just use, or I just use colored tint. So when I play that and go over with my mouse, it automatically tints the button, and I can also select this one, and when I select this, then I can't do anything else with that button. I go over this later on too. So what we want to do next is we want, of course, say the text is going to be again the something like x00. Again, maybe rich text, and maybe not best fit. Best fit will increase the size. Where is it? There it is. Bold. So again, let's check the quality. Looks good. So now I can press a button, and every time I press a button I can do anything, and I need, of course, a script to call what I want to do with that when I press that button. So, and again, since this is going to be a static inventory, we just need to make sure that everything is static then there too, or kind of static. The next thing I want to do is I want to create a game scene. So I can actually pick up stuff and add this one with some raycasting, and also we want to walk around. So what I do at first is I create. First I disable the main panels, and it's going to be in the way otherwise. I create a game object, a 3D game object, which is going to be a plane. You can use anything. You can use terrains and stuff. It doesn't really matter. Just make sure that, can't I zoom in? I bet I can somehow. I go into 3D mode. There's a plane. I'm going to set the plane to 0, 0, 0. Then I can see this one in the game scene, or basically at the main camera, which is over there at the moment. Later on we will just delete that camera, or basically skip this one. And I'm going to scale this up, I don't know, by 10 by 10 by 10 or something. Oh, I don't need to scale this one because it has no height value, but like that. So also I go into my assets folder and create a materials folder, because it's later on hard to find all that things if we mix them up too much. And also in that folder we create a new material. I'm going to take this and say it's brown. So this brown is just going to be my ground texture basically, or ground material, and I drag this onto the plane. The camera which we are having in here right now is not of any importance. We just don't need this camera later on anyways. Okay, the next part is I want to use a first-person controller, and this way I need this means I need to import a package, an existing package, and this is going to be the characters package in here, which holds third-person controller, first-person controller, and everything else you want to, or you need. If you don't have that packages, you may want to go to the asset store and download it as standard packages. I just leave everything alone here and everything on, and just import it. And as you soon will see, it will land in the standard assets folder. Okay, so now it is done with importing all that things, and in the standard assets folder, as I said before, we have the characters folder, and in this folder we have a first person folder, and in here we have the prefabs folder. And what we do is we take the FPS controller and drag that into our scene and set this one to wherever we want, but basically I go over and set everything to 0 at first. I don't go over and do anything with that one. I don't configure anything. I just take it how it is. And just to make sure that everything works properly, I just drag this one over a bit. So the main camera will basically will be disabled once we start the game. And now we are able to walk around. and press the I button, but we are still able to walk around. And we want to make sure that once we are pausing the game or using the inventory, I don't want the mouse look around, I don't want the ability to walk, I just want to make sure that I stay on the position where I am. And this is going to be done pretty easy. At first we need a new namespace for this one. And this is going to be using Unity standard assets. That is the one what we just imported, dot, and here we have characters, dot, and there we have first person. So we need to make sure that we use or basically have that namespace, otherwise we have no access to the FPS controller. So make sure that you add this line in your code. So once we are in that main panel, and this main panel is active, we want to disable the script inside of the first person controller. So we have two possibilities. We can go and look for that right now, that game object, and disable it once we need this, or we just do this in runtime. I don't know what will take longer. We will use or need that connection no matter what. So what we can do is we create the connection in here at first. So I say private, and I want the first person controller. As you can see, it is already written here. If we don't have that line in here, we wouldn't be able to find this first person controller, and we just say FPC maybe. This is just a name. So in start we can say FPC equals, and then we just say game object. We can use also the tag system. I personally will use that GameObject.find instead of GameObject.find with tag. I don't think it doesn't really matter in this way. So what we want to go is we want to find a string called FPS Controller. You can also rename this once it's in your scene to player, but I just leave it alone because I just want to take this one. And in this I want to get a component. So write get component, then those weird brackets in here, and in here we type first person controller, and behind that other bracket, and then we have the connection to this controller, and we can say, and here once we pressing the button we say FPS dot FPC dot, and now we have all the possibilities inside of FPC, and what we just want to make sure is FPC enabled equals false. So we disable the script component first person controller, which you can see here, which is that script part, and we just disable this. So once we unpause the game, we want to enable this one. So we set this in here to true. Save this one, return to Unity, and let's see if this is going to work. So now I'm able to walk, but now I cannot walk anymore. I can now look around, and now I cannot look around. So yeah, this is what I wanted to achieve. So I won't move when my inventory is open. I just want to stay where I am, and I want to look in that direction where I looked before. Okay, so now we have the walking, now we have the controls. The next thing is what we want next. Well, we need some wood, of course, and we want to increase it anyhow and decrease it anyhow. To increase it, we can just create a small or fast prefab. I just take a cylinder 3D object, maybe like this. Going to reset its position and stuff like so. So this can be my wood right now. You take your 3D object or whatever you need whenever you need it. And this is going to be my wood prefab later on. So I create a wood, and this wood of course needs a capsule collider or any other collider you need or we need. The problem is it doesn't, or it didn't came up. I'm going to remove that component pretty quick. I don't know why it is so weird. Physics, capsule collider. Well, it's dumb, but okay. I go and center. I just take it up a bit. I don't know why it's so weird. Okay, so we need of course a collider. So you can also use a mesh collider, I think, but this is of course a bit cost intense in CPU time, I believe. So this is a collider we need later on because we want to check with a raycast out of our mouse, basically, if we are hitting with a raycast an object. If I play right now, this might bump a bit. As you have seen, it bumped a bit up, but it's pretty much okay. Oh, that's why. Okay, the capsule collider is a bit different as I expected, but okay. So we can just leave that wood for now alone. What we also want, or what I also want, is that wood needs to be, or needs to have a rigid body component. Physics, rigid body, so I can throw stuff away and it will use gravity. You can play around with the mass and stuff. So as you can see now, that thing bumped into the air or wherever, or on the ground, and will stay there. So I have my prefab done for now. So I drag this wood at first in the prefabs folder, so I can always use this. You can also create another material for this, or basically you will later on anyways go and create textures and all the other things and have your own 3D models for this. So what I want right now is I want to create a raycasting script where I am able to pick up items, no matter which, or basically sure, I want to make sure that I pick up the right items, and I want to make sure that I can do so and delete them from the scene and also drop them later on. So at first, to pick stuff up, at first I create a new tag, which is a wood tag. So everything tagged with wood can or will land inside of my wood inventory when I pick this one up. So let's create a new C# script, which is going to be raycast collector. Call it however you want. I call this one raycast collector, and this is only going to do that stuff, just raycasting and collecting items and put them in the inventory. So I'm going to open this one up. And yeah, let's look into that. At first we need a connection to our inventory system. So we say private inventory script and call this one just inventory. And in start we say, I don't need this. In start we say again, as we have done before in the inventory script itself, inventory equals GameObject.find, and in brackets again this is going to be inventory system. Don't forget to write everything how it really is. And we want to get the component out of the inventory system, since we just found the game object again. And then here we take inventory script and use those brackets afterwards. And then we have the connection to inventory. So now we can every time change stuff directly in the inventory system. So we can add to wood or decrease from wood, no matter how we use them. Okay, so now for the raycasting. what we need for the raycasting is at first raycast length. I can do this public or private, it doesn't really matter, but for testing public is always good. So we say it's going to be a float variable, and I call this one ray length. So ray length maybe is going to be 5f. So we have to be at least 5 units away or close to the character, or the item needs to be 5 or smaller, close to that, to the first person controller. So now we create the ray. So ray, call this one ray equals camera dot main dot what was it? A screen point array, I think, or screen point. Yeah, I would say a screen point array, and then here we need input. If not, I'm going to dot mouse position. There we go. So this is going to be our ray. So we shoot the ray from the camera main point to the input mouse. I'm going to check if this is right or wrong. Yeah, that's right. So the next one is we need a raycast hit, and we call this one just hit. So nothing special with this one. And now to the raycast shooting itself. So if don't forget, this needs all to be in the update function. It will be the whole time, it will be present while you walk around through your scene and stuff. Physics dot raycast, and in here we have the ray itself, then out hit, and the ray length. Yeah, so we actually shoot the ray out, and we check if we hit anything inside of the ray length. That's pretty much it, what we are doing here. So then we need to check if we hit, or if our hit collider, or if hit collider.gameObject has the tag of wood, what we created just a second before, then do something like pick this wood up, or actually add stuff to the inventory system itself. So we can say inventory dot, and in here we should have wood. There it is. We can say plus plus. That means we add 1 wood to the inventory, and then we go over and destroy, and in brackets we say hit dot collider dot game object. So we delete that object we were hitting with our raycast, and we got get 1 wood. So the problem is right now I will always automatically get all that wood, so I need to make an input before I actually go and get or grab that wood. So usually there is another button in games where you have to press the E button, for example, and this is what we do right now. So if input dot get key down, and brackets, and also as a string E, if somebody is pressing the E button on the keyboard, then we get 1 wood and we destroy the wood in the scene, and we add this into our inventory. So let's test this one out. Don't forget to save. And in my assets folder, I'm going to create another folder pretty quick. Create folder. This is going to be my scenes folder, and I want to make sure that I save that scene I'm working on, so nothing will be I don't know, I call this just game room, and I save the scene. So make sure you save everything every time you have done any stuff. so you don't lose anything. So let's test this one out. I walk around, and when I press my E button, nothing is happening. And of course nothing else is happening because I need my FPS controller and need to add my raycast collector script, of course. There we go. The ray length is 5. Nothing is happening. I'm going to go a bit closer, but I cannot collect that item. Why can't? Oh, because it's still untagged. So I forgot to say tag wood. Now this one is tagged as wood, and also go over and press apply. So or your prefab is going to get that information too. Pressing E again, nothing happens. Now I was close enough. I pressed E, and as you see now it's gone. What I want to check first is I go into my inventory system and check in here. I added 1 wood to the inventory, but when I press I right now, it didn't add it inside of that. So I need to make sure that I add that, or that I am able to see the wood I have done. I got right now in the inventory script. I need another function for this, or basically another namespace. So yeah, another function too. So the namespace is going to be unityengine.ui. So otherwise we don't have the possibility to go into the text elements and change anything inside. So I create a new function in here, which I believe, I don't know if I need this one. Let's just write this. So I call this one update items. So every time I need to update any item or stuff, then I want to make sure that the items are updated accordingly. Also, I want to call this update item every time the main panel is active. So if copy this line, so if main panel.activeSelf equals true, so if this is active, we want to call update items. Why do we want this? Well, basically, every time I drop an item, it wouldn't be updated once we are in the pause panel. So copy this line, or this part of the line, and close the line. So, and in here, yeah, we want to update at first wood. So we need at first the connection to the corresponding text field in the scene or in the inventory panel itself. So we say public, text, and this text will be our wood amount. Wood amount. No, just save this. And now I go back to the inventory system. We will have in a second the text element part in here. There we go. So I go now to the main panel and activate it so I can see that text element. I basically don't need to zoom out from the scene. I just open this one. This button will contain, let's say this is the wood button. And this wood button contains the text for the wood amount, and this needs to be dragged into the inventory system's wood amount. There we go. Yeah, don't forget to rename that. So wood amount text, and this is going to be basically a wood icon. As I said, this is not a dynamic one. This is just a static inventory. And also later on we want to make this button interactable or not interactable. So we also need the connection to the button itself, which is just a game object. So we say public game object, I think it is, and say wood button. If not, I'm going to change this one later on too. So for any item you are going to update or to collect or whatever. You will have a lot of stuff in here later on, so make sure you rename everything properly or name everything properly. And an update, we now want at first say wood amount. So we want to update the wood amount. We can see .text. So we have the text component equals, and in here we want to have wood converted into a string like this. But since I also want the X in front as I have it in here, then I can say, okay, this is a string X plus wood dot to string, and we can say in here D1 as a string D1. That means we will also have 1 0 in front, or basically we have I think it is 1, no, I believe it's 2. So this will be how shall I say, yeah, this will be 2 decimals in that row of text. So and also what as I said before, want to check is if I have wood smaller or equal than 0, basically bigger or equal to 1. If I have more than 1 wood, I want to set the button to interactable. That means we need to say wood button dot, and we just get on the fly get the component of the button, and in here we want to say interactable, and we want to set interactable to true. Now let's save this one and go back to Unity and test everything out. Well, right now I tell you later on why this is not working like it is, or as it should. Oh, I have to press the E button. So now you have seen I got 1 into my wood amount. It already did or added this one into the stack. So this is working pretty fine. The next thing is, what is that? It's not set to which object update items. Double click this and try to figure out what's wrong in here. I don't know. I believe this is going to be right. I'm going to check this pretty quick. Okay. So, and if we don't have the wood we need to be interactable, of course, let me just copy that line again and write the same stuff in here and say false. So if this one is the case, then just be true. If it is not bigger than 1, then the interactable or the button is not interactable. Also, the inventory did show and we were able to move just because the main panel in the beginning was active. So when I now press I again, everything is like it is, but the problem is it's still interactable. So I need to check what's wrong here, and we'll be back in a second. Oh yeah, I think I figured it out. Well, I didn't added the wood button inside my inventory script, so it cannot react to that. So taking that wood button and place it in here. So let's try this once again. So when I press I, this is an interactable button, or basically interactable is false right now, so I cannot do anything. I have no hover over stuff and so on. But if I go and collect this item, it is interactable. So we can drag around stuff and can select that button. We cannot drop anything right now, so we want to create this one at next. So for any item later on, you just need to add the same stuff again for every item you can collect. For every button, for every item, for every stuff. I'm going to show you this one later on. For every stuff you need or you want to do, you can just copy all that lines and say, instead of wood amount, we say, I don't know, stone amount, stone button, and all the other things. And in here, of course, it's going to be stone. I believe I will show you this one right after this one. So now we want to drop an item and decrease the amount from our inventory. So what we create is a public function, which is public void drop item. And in here, why am I going to do the public? I want the connection from a button outside, and otherwise I have no access to that drop item function from outside. So we need to make sure that we can select an item. So we use a string variable for this one. I'm going to put this one in here. So I call, or say at first this is going to be public, later on you also can do it in private mode. This is going to be a string variable, and it is a selected item. And selected item will just compare later on what we have selected. So if selected item equals wood, for example, I don't know if I think I need to do it like that. If the selected item equals wood, then we want to say, and we click that button, of course, then we just decrease one wood. Wood minus. And also we want to instantiate our prefab. So what we do next, or what we want next, is we want a game object wood. So we can instantiate this. I say this is going to be wood prefab. So, and here we want to instantiate the wood prefab. But where do we want to instantiate that prefab? The problem is that, we need to know in which direction the first-person controller is looking and how far away we want to instantiate this one. Oh, and also if selected item is okay, and we have at least one item. Basically, we don't need to do it like that. It's bigger or equal than 1, but it is some false positive, or I don't know how this is called. Just if there's anything wrong and the button is not interactable, why ever, then we can just still not decrease the amount. Okay, so let's instantiate that thing on the right position. So what we want to instantiate, the wood prefab. And now comes the tricky part. We want to instantiate that at our FPS controller. So at first we need the game object first person controller, and so we just say public, and this is going to be a game object. And we just call this one player. And so we need that player transform to get the position, but we cannot do that only like that. We need to say transform point. And transform point again has a vector 3 position we can use to instantiate that part on the right, or that wood prefab on the right position. So in here we say vector3 dot forward times 2. So it will be 2 times in front of us, or 2 units in front of us, or should be in front of us. And of course we don't want to forget the rotation, which is going to be at first, let's say quaternion dot identity, like so, and we also close that line. So we instantiate wood prefab if we have any, when we say, okay, drop an item or drop this item. And now we need to say when is that thing selected and when is that instantiated. So what we need is, I believe, another function to compare what is maybe I can just do it a bit different. I'm going to check this pretty quick. First of all, I save, of course. So yeah, I'm going to create a new function, which is also public since we changed this one from a button outside. So public void, and call this one set selected item. Set selected item. And we want to send a string variable from outside depending on what button we have pressed. And this is going to be the item name, or call this one in here however you want again. And we say if, again, you have to do this all with all other items too later on. So if item name equals wood, this is going to be the stuff we have or we send from outside. So if this, whatever we send from outside, equals to wood, then we say selected item equals wood. And now we can say and take that selected item wood and do anything with that. So let's prepare the scene. I'm first saving this one. Let's prepare the scene, or basically that inventory system. There will be 3 new things right now. So at first we want the FPS controller being into the player part in here. The selected item basically does not need any changes from us. So at least it could be just private. Then we have the wood button, and we have a wood prefab. In the wood prefab, we just drag in our wood prefab. So now we can basically instantiate that, but we need to make sure that the wood button is active, or actually has been pressed. So what we do is we take that wood button, press on it, on the plus and the on click, and drag in our inventory system, so we have access to all that functions inside. Say inventory script, and then we say set selected item. Click, and in here we say, since it is a wood button, we just send in a string variable called wood. Now we save the scene, just in case, and test this out. So now we have nothing we can do. We cannot select this, basically. When I pick this one up, this is interactable. So now I can select that button and say drop item. Okay, this is not working. Why is this not working? Null reference object not set. Which object is not set? Let me check this one pretty quick. Oh yeah, of course, we need to go onto our drop item button, say on click event, press on the plus, drag in the inventory system again, go to functions, inventory script, and say drop item. And depending on what we have selected, we should be able to drop that item. So we pick this one up, we select this and drop the item. And now you can see we dropped the item directly in front of us and we have nothing left. So I also have no problems or any other problems in here. So I go to my inventory system and say, okay, I have maybe 10 wood already. Press enter, save the scene again. And now what I can do is I can select this and say I drop a lot of those items and they will just do all that graphics thingies. And we can also go over and pick those things up again. And yeah, the problem is with that FPS controller, sometimes the mouse is outside of the screen, so you might want to lock this later on. So now I have collected 9 of them again. 2 are around here, this and that. And yeah, now we have the possibility to pick items up, to drop items inside of the scene. I don't know where that null reference comes from. Maybe from this one in the scene, I don't know. We have the rigid body on it, we have everything else. Maybe we need to say it's not a collider, it's a trigger, I don't know. No, it needs to be a collider, so it's right. So yeah, what we want to do next, oh yeah, for consumables, if you want to use any items, then we create another function which is also public. And we don't need necessarily to show the player that he is using anything. We just need to maybe play a sound or whatever. So in this use item, we can again use the selected item stuff. So if the selected item is going to be wood and we have more than one of that, then we can just say wood minus minus. And there we go. And this use item, of course, needs to go onto the button of use item button in here. Oh yeah, this one is wrong. Blah, 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 blah. We don't need all that. Okay. This go away. Okay. And in the on use item button, again, we scroll down to on click, press on the small plus, drag in our inventory system, and take the inventory script and say use item. There we go. So if whatever we have selected is going to be wood, then we can just use them up until we have nothing left. And then they are not here, there are none of them. Again, this is going to be the mouse, and now we have one again and can drop this directly in front of us, no matter where we are where we are looking. Again, we can drop that no matter where we are. That's it. So we now have a fully functional inventory system. So instead of that wood button, we can say we want to have maybe stones and stuff. We can later on use crafting for all that things and use that things up. You basically should know right now how to do this. And since we are in the spacer the whole time, we can say, okay, we just duplicate the wood button and say this is not going to be a wood button, it is going to be a stone button. So we can say here in that part over there, we just send stone inside. That means the selected item is going to be stone. We just need to take care that that button is going to be a stone button, so we don't confuse ourselves. Also later on go and use the right icon for this. I'm going to disable it maybe. And we also need the connection to that text later on and all the other things. So if the wood button, or basically that stone thing here, or that stone button and stone amount. We just need to implement all that items in our inventory system. Again, this is going to be static. It's not going to change around all that things. Basically, we don't need that. I believe we don't need that. If we need anything else, we can just say we do them visible or invisible. Maybe this is going to help. But this is nothing what I want to go over. So what I go over right now is how you can just say, okay, I want to quick some stones inside, or using some stones. So what we do is we create a new prefab maybe for stone. You have all your stuff maybe done, of course, for that. So you can say, okay, create new, going to create a cube maybe. Point this to 0, 0, 0. Well, this just for me. Drag this up, scale this down to 0.5 maybe, and put this somewhere in the scene. It also, again, needs to have a rigid body component, which is in the physics component style, and needs to have gravity active. Also, make sure that you use the mass and things with the right values, so they won't fly so high and so on and so forth. So, and that's basically it. And you just go over and take that wood part, create a new tag, say plus, new tag is going to be stone, rename that also to stone, so you know later on what it is, and go to tag and say stone tag. And that's it for the stone. So make a prefab out of this by just dragging it inside the prefab folder or any other folder, but basically we use the we use a prefab folder for this, or I do. And in the script we just need the connection to all of them once again. Something is lagging here, give me a sec. So back into the scene, and basically back into the inventory system. And what we need is, we need those three things again for stone. So we just copy all of that and say text stone amount, text stone or game object stone button, and we say stone prefab. We save, and every time everywhere we use that anything from wood, we just do the same for the stone. So I copy just this and update items and change everything from here from wood to stone. We already have the stone variable for this one, so because I just added this one before we just started, or basically as we started writing all things down. So now we have a stone text we are updating, and also we need to make sure that all that things are going to be right. In the selected item, of course, we need to change this one too. So if we have selected a stone, then of course it is going to be stone selected item. If we are using any item, then we want to make sure that this is going to be called stone, and the variable stone is bigger than 1, and then we decrease stone by 1 when we use this. Just do this for consumables. And also, not in here, also we copy the drop item thing, what you can do with stones, of course, and say instead of wood, just change everything to stone. This is going to be the instantiated stone prefab. And that's it. And also here we say we want to decrease stone by 1. Save this. And then we go again to our inventory system, wait until all buttons and all things are going to be in the list. There we go. So what we need at first is the stone amount text. So we drag this one in here. Then we need the stone button, which is this. And then we take the stone prefab. And that's it. Basically, we should be able to, pick up stones wherever they are, and also we should be able to drop them later on, so we can pick up the wood, oh yeah, we need to change the rake cast. Oh man, give me a second. So back into our raycast collector script, and then in here we see if we hitting just a tag item which has the tag wood, we also need to take care of that and say if the tag is going to be stone, so we just copy the wool part. I think this is going to be enough. Then we add wood into our inventory, stone into our inventory, and we just destroy the game object, and we collect it the same way actually. So save this and let's test this one out again. If this is not going to work, we need to change the raycast a bit, but basically we should be able to take all of them. So now, as you can see, I just picked up 3 stones, and of course I can just go over here and drop them. As you can see, we can do everything we want. So that's everything you need to know for a non-dynamic or basically a static inventory system. So I hope this one is in any way helpful for you guys out there. If you like that video, just thumb it up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and of course leave me a comment if you have any questions, any problems you encounter. Do whatever you want and you like. And yeah, I'm sorry for this, that it's going to be that long video, but it's a lot of stuff to do, as you have seen. But yeah, now we are done and we have a fully working survival inventory system. So see you in the next part, maybe later on in some crafting, or I don't know. Do some requests if you want to, and yeah, see you in the next tutorial, video, or whatever. Bye bye.